Hey guys, welcome back to Magic TV. My name's Craig. It is at 12 o'clock on a Sunday, which means it's time for a Q&A. Now, this is where I take all of your questions that you've asked over the course of the week and I try to answer them as best as I can to the best of my ability. This whole thing on a Sunday lives and dies by the type of questions that you guys ask. So please, there are no stupid questions and nothing is off the table. If you've got a question, ask them in the comments to this video and I will get to those questions the following week. If I miss a question, I'm very sorry. Ask it again. Sometimes I do miss questions, and try to make sure that they're in this video because we get so many comments on this channel. It's very difficult for me to pick up on questions that have been asked elsewhere on the channel. But anyway, without further ado, I'm going to look at the questions right now. Before I start, please remember, if you want to find out when Netrix is launching, we are moving closer to launch date for Netrix every single week. If you want to find out when Netrix is launching, just go to www.magictv.org. The link is in the description down below. Put in your email address into the contact form, select Netrix, and you will be notified when it's about to go live. It's almost ready to go into beta testing, and we are on track to launch in November, so I'm very excited. Anyway, with that out of the way, let's get on to this week's questions. Okay, so the first question is Professor Dan. Hey up, Craig. Hey up, Dan. I was rewatching an episode of the Wizard Magic review from 2012 recently, and you reviewed Hanky Panky by Scott Alexander and Puck and gave it 99%. My question is, are you still performing it 9 years later, or is it in my bottom drawer? I am still performing it 9 years later. In fact, I actually bought a few years ago on a second-hand Facebook group, I bought a backup one because I like it so much. I primarily use it in my kids' show, to be perfectly honest. I have done it in cabaret, but I prefer using it in my kids' show or in a family show. In fact, I did a video on this channel during lockdown, and it was kind of like a Zoom show. It was all about how to run a Zoom show for kids, and I included in there my full Zoom show performance. I included the whole Zoom kids show that I was doing during lockdown, and if you watch that, you can see that I'm there doing Hanky Panky by Scott Alexander as part of that act. So it is something that I still use to this day. I don't always use the final phase where the handkerchief gets caught visually in midair, but I do use it. It just depends on the environment in which I'm performing for. If I'm performing in somewhere like a theme park or a holiday park, or I'm performing in somewhere like Alton Towers or Drayton Manor, which is kind of the UK's big holiday parks, big theme parks, it's kind of our version of Disney, then I will definitely 100% use the 20th Century Silks in there, so Hanky Panky. If those of you that don't know what I'm talking about, Hanky Panky is Scott Alexander's version of 20th Century Silks, and it's very well made. The handkerchiefs that you get with it are brilliant. The first phase is the Vanishing Handkerchief, the typical 20th century handkerchief, but done with a Puck and Scott Alexander touch to it. And then the second phase allows you to visually catch it in the air in between the two handkerchiefs. So it's a really nice routine. I did give it 99% back in 2012, and let's revisit that right now. I would stick with that grade. I've done that probably in, I'd say, at least 1,000 shows since that review. And even though I do it mainly in family shows and kid shows, it's still something that I'd be more than happily do in a cabaret show. It's just I've got lots of other material, so it fits better in my kid show or my family show. But yes, Professor Dan, I still do use it to this day. Okay, so the next question is by the Fess, and the Fess says, "Hey Craig, I've seen your review show on Cognito and I'm blown away with it. Thank you. Do you think in the future you can make a Hows and Whys of app-based magic?" I don't think I'd do a Hows and Whys of app-based magic because it is such a big sort of genre. I could probably do a 5-hour video and I'd still only be touching the surface. But what I'll do is what I've done already in the past. I'll take it app by app. So I did a Hows and Whys of Digital Force Bag about 3 or 4 months ago, which a lot of people really seem to like. And it was going into the various different things that you can do with Digital Force Bag. So I'll probably do that in the future with a few others. Cognito is a good app to actually do a Hows and Whys for. There's certain apps that wouldn't work for because the app does what you expect it to do and it doesn't really do anything else. So doing Hows and Whys isn't really needed. It's kind of, at best, you'd probably, I'd do a magic live on what the app does, and that's about it. But Cognito has so many options and concepts and ideas. You can literally take it in so many different directions that it's probably a really good app to be able to do the Hows and Whys for. I've got a few Hows and Whys that I'm in the planning stages of doing. They take a long time. A lot of the videos that go out on a Thursday for the magic stuff, they take a long time because of the research and then performing the routines. It's probably the hardest videos of the week for me to do, to be perfectly honest. But I will be doing more Hows and Whys of app-based magic in the future, but I'll be taking it app by app. Hope that helps. Okay, so the next question is by Tom Stevenson. Hey Tom, how you doing? What are your thoughts on Propless Mentalism? I know you might not perform any, but I'd be interested to know what Propless Mentalism tricks have impressed you. I've got to be honest with you, Tom, you're speaking to the wrong person right here, because I just don't like Propless Mentalism. I don't. Having said that, I have experienced, Michael Murray at Blackpool, the last time Blackpool was on, Michael Murray had me think of a playing card, and with not a pack of cards on him and nothing written down and nothing at all, he was able to tell me the name of my card, and it was incredible. It really was. But even that, even though it was incredible, it took him like 5 minutes to get to revealing the card. There was a lot of procedure to it. It wasn't just like, think of a card, this is the card you're thinking of. There was a lot of procedure, there was a lot of patter, there was a lot of stuff he had to go through in order to extract that information out of my head. And that's like somebody who I consider to be one of the best in the world at everything, especially mentalism, doing sort of a Propless-based presentation. And even though it worked and I was very, very impressed with it, it still took a lot longer. And from a layman's point of view, I could have just gone, say stop, have a look at that card, it's the 7 of diamonds, and achieve the same effect, right? And that's my problem with Propless Mentalism. I just think of it as like guessing, to be perfectly honest. It's just like guessing. That's what it is. It's guessing. It's kind of like, the problem is it comes across as guessing. It doesn't come across as this otherworldly mind-reading powers. It just comes across as you're guessing what the spectator's thinking of. And, I speak to a lot of people who are into Propless Mentalism, and they talk about, oh yeah, sometimes you have to take a risk because you have to have balls of steel, because a lot of the time it doesn't work, and you might have to go in a different direction. And call me old school, but I'd like my magic or my mentalism to work. I'd like to be in a situation where I go into a performance, I know it's going to work. As long as I do what I'm meant to do properly, I'm going to get a successful outcome. And I think we owe it to our, at the end of the day, when I'm performing for a customer, I'm performing for a client, or I'm just trying to impress people with magic. It might be that, I was in a restaurant the other day with Sarah, and a server came over to us, and I was just like, she was like, oh, you're a magician, can you do a trick? I was like, yeah, let me show you something. Whoever it is I'm performing for, whether it's down the pub with my mates, whether it's, at a paid gig, I owe it to the person I'm performing for to do the best possible performance that I can do. And if I'm going to do the best possible performance I can do, there's never a situation where I'm going to choose to do it propless instead of with a prop. Because there's no way Propless Mentalism can be as clean as mentalism with a prop. And I know a lot of hardcore Propless Mentalism guys, they go, yes, but it's more pure that way. Well, how is it? Mentalism's not even a thing. You can't really read minds. That's not a thing. It's not a thing. No one can actually read somebody's mind. Not Darren Brown, not Max Maven, not anybody. It is not a real thing. What we are doing as mentalists or mental magicians or whatever it may be is we're pretending that we can read minds. We're faking it, right? So how is it? How has it become that, if you want to be considered a real mind reader, you have to do it without props? Look at the interview with Chris Cox. He's a real mind reader. He travels the world reading minds, and he's got a stage full of stuff. He's got massive props and massive set designs, and And you know, that's what you do. You know, if I want to have somebody think of a number on a dice, yeah, I could probably find some sort of propless way of doing it and take this invisible dice and throw this invisible dice and think of it. And I could have some convoluted way of working out what number they threw on that invisible dice. Or I could just get myself a mental die and I could just get them to throw that mental die and I could look away and I could tell them the number immediately. I could take the path of least resistance. So my attitude is simple. You know, if I need to use props or I need to use whatever it may be in order to perform, and that's the best way to do it, then that's what I'm going to do. I can't imagine any time in my life that doing a propless based mentalism procedure will be better than accomplishing that same thing without using a prop or a secret gimmick that allows me to do it a lot cleaner. You know, look at a thumb writer, for example. I could have somebody think of a playing card and somehow, you know, let's go back to that Michael Murray thing. He blew me away with it at Blackpool. But at the end of the day, if he was performing that to a layperson, it's a 5-minute procedure. It's a 5-minute procedure. He's got to, or I could use the thumb writer and I could just say to the person I'm performing for, I'm going to write something down on this business card. Do me a favor, name a card. Boom. Well, look, I predicted it. Tell me one trick using propless mentalism that is better than using a prop. One trick that you can do with propless mentalism that I cannot do by including a gimmick. And then tell me why, when you're performing to a layperson, the use of the gimmick is worse than going out and doing it without any gimmicks at all. It's kind of like, you know, right, okay, I'm hardcore. I can go to a gig with absolutely nothing. And all I have to do is rock up and using my propless mind reading powers, I can go. Yeah, but half the people will be bored. I mean, I've been to gigs where you start going through procedure and there is a lot of procedure. I wouldn't mind if all this propless mentalism stuff was name a card, think of a card, 7 of diamonds, boom. And there was no procedure to it. But whether it's a playing card or whatever it may be, there's always procedure behind this whole propless stuff. And then you've got a very real possibility that it might not even work. Combine that with traditional methods where you're using gimmicks and props and whatever else it is. And I don't think any layman ever, when, you know, let's say I go and I do a mind reading bit and I use a shadow wallet, for example. So I get them to think of a name of somebody they met at school, for example, and they write it down. I put it in the wallet and I put the wallet away. And then the rest of the time, I'm just going, right, okay, concentrate on the name, think of it in your head, imagine, whatever it may be. I don't think anybody would turn around to me and go, well, you know, that was really good. I have no idea how you got my person's, my friend's name from school. Would have been a little bit better if I didn't write it down and put it in the wallet. No one's ever going to say that. No one's ever going to say that. I would, propless mentalism, if it was better than mentalism with props, then maybe I'd consider it. But it's not. There's no trick ever using propless mentalism techniques that is better than using a prop. And for that reason, I don't like it. If I've got 5 minutes to perform for somebody, I owe it to them to do the best possible performance I can do. And I guarantee you right now, if I choose to do mentalism, the best possible performance I can do involves a prop of some description, because that's the path to least resistance. So what's my thoughts on propless mentalism? Frankly, Tom, I think it sucks. Okay, so the next question is by Alan Zom, and hope you're doing well, Alan. And the question is, Craig, being of an age and engaged in magic for quite some time, I've come to realise that when we as magicians bring anything into play, we immediately draw suspicion and scepticism. For me, it just screams gimmicked. One of the reasons why I enjoy your chop cup routine is that it brings into play everyday possible borrowed objects that are or could be fully examinable at some point. Question, could you share your thoughts on using a participant's borrowed everyday object versus using the magician's objects that have been brought into play? Thanks. Okay, so that's a very interesting question. What's better, using your own props or borrowing stuff or making it feel like the props that you're using are just part of your everyday carry and it doesn't look like they're suspicious magic props? Well, you know what? I don't mind both, to be perfectly honest. I don't mind both. I think that we should strive, wherever possible, to try to make the props that we use as organic as possible, but I don't think it necessarily is majorly important. So let me clarify. A lot of the tricks that I've actually bought out over the years are tricks where I've attempted to make things as organic as I possibly could. So you bring up Chop, my routine Chop. Chop was designed to take a chop cup routine and make it so that you could do it with a regular cup. So you could go into Starbucks or Costa Coffee or whatever it is, borrow a cup and do a chop cup routine. Keymaster is another example. You know, I wanted to, obviously the Holy Moly by Hanky uses washers. And the problem with washers is, who carries some washers around in their pocket with them? Yeah, it's an everyday object, but nobody carries, unless I've got a residency in a B&Q or a local hardware shop, it doesn't make any sense me carrying washers around with me. It does make sense me carrying a key around with me. So with Keymaster, it was a way of taking a moving whole plot and putting it onto something that I'm going to have in my pocket the entire time, if that kind of makes sense. Love cards, if you want to go back even further, love cards was a way of me doing a book test with cards that are available everywhere that you just have in your wallet. You look at Gossip. Gossip is another perfect example. I wanted something that would organically feel like it's just been ripped out of a magazine, as opposed to having a specially printed book or specially printed cards or whatever it may be. So I'm a big believer in having props with you that look like they are organic. And that's great because immediately people can relate to those props. However, I think that if that's the only type of magic that you do, you're missing out on a lot of really great tricks. And what I mean by that is, my attitude is when I'm performing at a gig, and it's a little bit different when I'm performing at a house party where I'm with friends, or I'm performing down the pub. But if I'm performing at a paid gig, I am there as a professional magician. Now, as a professional magician, people kind of expect that I'm going to have certain props with me that I'm going to use to perform for them. Whether it be a pack of cards, like everybody knows that when I perform coin magic in a gigging situation, I use American coins. Well, that's not a common object. American coins, silver dollars, half dollars, whatever there may be, it's a very uncommon object. And when I bring these out, I say, have a look at these, check them out, make sure they're okay, make sure there's nothing weird. I collect American coins, have a look at these. Bringing out a chop cup is another example, a normal chop cup. It looks like nothing on God's green earth. But whatever prop it is that you're bringing out, a colour sticks by Eric Stevens is another example. Like, what is this weird plastic thing that this magician's bringing out, or turbo stick by Richard Sanders, or fiber optics by Richard Sanders, or whatever the case may be. You know, as a magician that's been paid to perform at a gig, again, it comes back to what I was talking about Propless Mentalism. I owe it to my audience to do the best possible trick I can do. Now, if that involves using a prop that looks very organic and looks like the sort of thing that all of the punters would carry around with them, that's great. But I have no problem bringing out a set of linking rings and saying, hey guys, I've got 4 rings here. Can you have a look at them for me? Check them out, make sure they're okay. The idea is for me to make these solid rings go through solid. I've got no problem me bringing out a weird magician's prop because I'm paid to be there as a magician. You know, if I need a plumber in my house, I'm not going to question the plumber when he starts bringing out a plunger and whatever other else he's going to be bringing out of his bag. That's just par for the course. I understand that plumber is going to need special equipment in order to do the job that I need him to do. And I'm not going to go, hang on a minute, mate, hang on. I see you've just pulled a plunger out of your bag. I'd rather if you just use your bare hands, please, mate. That's what I'd rather you do. Unplug my toilet using your bare hands. Put that plunger away. Now, I expect that he's going to have certain equipment that he's going to use at my house in order to fix the problem that I've hired him to do. Well, it's the same as a magician. I have been hired as a magician. When I'm hired to do a stage show, I take big, huge illusions with me that look like nothing on God's green earth. I'm not thinking, well, I shouldn't take this illusion with me. I shouldn't take this big, massive box with me because it's obviously, it's obviously, I need a cardboard box. That's what I need. I need a cardboard box and I need some broom handles. That's what I need to do. If I'm going to do an illusion show, I need a big cardboard box and I need some broom handles because then it's going to look organic. No, you do what you need to do. You're hired as a professional magician, and people who are at a gig that are watching magic, they expect you to pull out weird and wonderful objects. It's the perfect example is a deck of cards. Nobody carries a deck of cards with them. And yet here's this guy, this magician, carrying a deck of cards. And hey, by the way, he's also got this special card here that looks like it's blank on both sides. What's that for? That's weird. But I need those things in order to do the best possible job that I can do. Now, when I'm out and about, and I've covered this in my everyday carry video, when I'm out and about and I'm with mates or I'm down the pub or I'm not one of these people that loads up my props onto my body. Right, okay, I'm going out down the pub with my mates tonight. I'll grab that. I'll grab that. I'll put that in my pocket. I'll grab that. No, I have a few weird and wonderful things in my pocket. And that I have a few, not weird and wonderful, I have a few everyday carry objects with me in my pocket. I've got some on my keychain, I've got some in my wallet, whatever it may be. So I'm set to do as much magic as I want to do, but I'm not taking special props. If I'm going out with magic buddies, I might take a deck of cards, but if I'm just going out, there's no way I'm going to take a deck of cards. I'm just going to take what I've got in my wallet and what I've got on my keychain. Because when I'm out with my mates and I'm just down the pub, for example, I think it would be a little bit weird going, well, hang on, let me just pull out this deck of cards. I'd rather say, hey, you want to see something? Yeah, grab me that napkin over there. And can you grab me that pen over there? Has anybody got a watch I can borrow? Yeah, okay, let's do something with these three objects and let's see what happens. So I understand where you're coming from, and I do agree in one way that, you bring out special props and they can be, what do you say? It screams gimmicked. I don't agree with that in a gig. But I do think maybe if you're down the pub with your mates and you bring out something that's kind of really weird, they're probably going to think it's like something special that you've brought out with you to be able to do this trick, which is why I like to try and make it as organic as possible when I'm out with my mates. But when you're out doing a gig, I don't think that automatically the action of bringing out something that is not organic, what do you say, draws suspicion and skepticism and screams gimmicked. I don't think that at all. I genuinely don't. I think that they expect you to have certain props with you in order to do the job that you've been hired to do. In this case, perform magic. I think that if you are very nonchalant about it and, hey, I've got these 3 pieces of rope here, would you like to examine them? I think that they're just going to think, well, it's some sort of thing to do a magic trick with. This guy's hired as a magician. Fair enough. And I think that by not performing tricks like that, you're missing out on a lot of really good magic. One of the tricks that I do in my parlor show, excuse me, every single parlor show that I do Dean's Box. Dean's Box is absolutely amazing. Dean's Box is one of my favourite routines of all time. Well, it looks like nothing on God's green earth. But if I didn't do it, my audience would be missing out on some amazing magic. Another thing that I carry around and I do in parlour shows quite a lot, in smaller parlour shows, is I'm a very proud owner of the Dean's Table, which is the best coins through table you've ever seen. Well, that looks even weirder. It's like this weird sort of triangular glass table looking thing, and it's obviously a magic prop. Well, it is obviously a magic prop, but the trick you can do with it is incredible. Am I going to take that down the pub? No. Am I going to do it in a show? Yes. So you wanted my opinion on the difference between bringing out special props versus having organic stuff. I think it very much depends on the environment, and it depends on what you're being booked to perform and where you're being booked to perform. But ultimately, to be perfectly honest, I've got no problem at a paid gig pulling out any weird and wonderful random thing if it means that I'm going to be able to make that show better for the people that have booked me. Okay, so the next question is by Warren Treadway. How you doing, Warren? Warren says, you mentioned in the past that you use ignition as part of your everyday carry. Yes, I do. How do you carry the all-important bit that goes with it without fear of losing it, as the method given is far from practical if using it as an everyday carry? I don't find that. I know you're not the first person to say that to me, and maybe mine's super powerful and super strong, I don't know. But I've been carrying ignition around with me for a very long time, and I've never had a problem with that gimmick coming loose off the key. I've never had that once. I know other people have, and that's fair enough. I've never had an issue with that at all. Not one issue. So I can't really help you with that because I've never had a problem with it, Warren. If you're having an issue and the gimmick is falling off the key, and that's happening to you all of the time, well, I suppose there's a couple of different ways of dealing with this. The first way of dealing with it is maybe to get a little bit of gaffer tape, tiny bit of gaffer tape, and just put it around the bottom so that it stays in place. And then when you know you're going to perform it, you can pick that off in your pocket. That might be an option. Or taking the gimmick and putting it into your wallet might be the other option. So, you know, you don't have to have the gimmick with the key. You can put the gimmick somewhere where you know you can get it and it still can be part of the everyday carry. So, for example, off the top of my head, you could bring your keys out and you could say, I've got a key here. Do you want to examine that key for me? I'm also going to take my wallet and I'm going to take out a note. And take out the note, but steal the gimmick underneath the note. As you take the note, you can put the gimmick right next to the note. So I'm also going to need a note. Actually, I think this would be better if I use somebody else's note. Or somebody else got a note I can borrow, put the note away, put the wallet away, you've stolen the gimmick, and now you're into the same position. So if you've got an issue with it falling off, just think about where else you can put that so it still becomes an everyday carry. As I say, I think the best option would be to put it in your wallet and have it right next to a note because you've got a reason to take a note out. I'm going to use a note for this. Actually, I'm going to use somebody else's note. Let me put this away and you're all sorted. So hopefully that makes sense and hopefully that helps. I've never had an issue with it, but if you have, and I know a lot of other people have said the same thing, think about where else you can put the gimmick. Okay, so the next question is by Alan Zorn again, and Alan says, Craig, we know as magicians we talk about the value and trove of information found from reading books. I find books to be more of a challenge for me, but as a dominantly left-handed person, I can truly say that when the magic community came out with VHS tapes, I found it more relief to watch VHS tapes because I didn't have to mark my books up to reverse, as if looking in a mirror for the left-handed person. At times, it has been and it can be somewhat of an obstacle to overcome. Question, any thoughts on us left-handed magicians, ways of learning? Are there any magicians you know of or aware of that can teach left-handed? Darwin Ortiz is left-handed and all of his books are written from a left-handed point of view, I believe. Also, Eric Jones is left-handed. And I tell you, I have some experience with this because Ryland is left-handed as well. And so when I'm teaching him, I have to flip everything in my head. So if I'm teaching him a routine, I have to literally just kind of go through and say, okay, right, now don't do this, do this, do this. And I have to almost think it through before I actually speak to him because everything has to be flipped around because he's left-handed. So I understand your concern. I don't really have much advice on it, to be perfectly honest, other than persevere. You know, as I say, Darwin Ortiz is left-handed and some of his books have been a bit of a struggle to learn for me because I have to reverse everything. So I can understand the problems that you're going through. As I say, the best advice I can give you is just try your best. I mean, if you're finding it easier to learn from downloads and VHS tapes and DVDs and so on and so forth, then that's maybe the route that you want to go down. If it's a really good book and you can't get the material anywhere else other than in the book, it's just persevere, to be perfectly honest, and just flip everything around in your head. It's not ideal, but I haven't really got another solution. As I say, it's frustrating for Ryland. I know it's frustrating because it's frustrating to Ryland being left-handed as well. So I totally get where you're coming from, but I don't really have a solution. I'll reach out to some left-handed magicians and I'll see if any left-handed magicians that I know have any advice that they can share with me, and I'll come back to you on a future Q&A. But because I'm not left-handed, I can't really help too much. Sorry about that, but I hope that helps. But I will speak to a few people and revisit this on a future Q&A. Okay, so the next question is Alan Fons, and Alan says, hello Craig, are we ever going to see your wife? Is she camera shy or are you ashamed of her? Yes, Alan. Yes, you hit the nail on the head. I am ashamed of my wife. God, I am so ashamed. I hope that she never darkens the screen of Magic TV ever, because frankly, I will just die right there of embarrassment. I mean, come on, dude. Am I ashamed of her? What sort of thing is that to say? I mean, that's just ridiculous. Am I ashamed of my wife? Come on, think about what you're saying there. No, she's camera shy. She doesn't like being on camera. She loves magic, but she's not a born performer. Her skill set, she's the managing director of both of the entertainment companies that I run. So she's the person that's basically in charge of them and makes sure that they run smoothly. You know, she's fantastic at that, but she's very much a behind the scenes person. You'll see very little video of her. She's got an Instagram account, but it's set to private, and there's very few people that have even got access to that Instagram account, that she actually ends up sort of allowing access to the Instagram account. And you'll never see her on camera. The most you'll see is an arm. She just doesn't like that. She's not into being on camera. She's camera shy. She's completely the opposite of me and Ryland. And Thea in that respect. Thea likes being the centre of attention as well, but she just doesn't like being on camera. And I'm absolutely, definitely not ashamed of her. Okay, so the next question is by BB, and BB says, hi Craig, hey BB, does being a magician, is being a magician sustainable as a career? A lot of young people are scared to pursue magic as a career because it's known not to be the most highest paying job, as it's commission based, especially if you have no clients. Yes, I mean, is it sustainable as a career? Yes, there's a lot of professional magicians, but don't think of it as commission based, because it's not commission based. Commission based is when you're doing a sales job and you're being paid commission on every sale that you do, whatever it may be. It's not being commission based. The problem with magic is you become a business owner. And this is the problem that a lot of magicians have. You need to look at magic as running your own business. And that's the most important thing. You're running a business. So all of the what's the word I'm looking for? All of the problems and all of the issues and all of the risks that you would associate with running your own business, that's actually exactly the same issues that you'd have being a professional magician. And when you become a professional magician, you are a business. Your product is you, but you are a business. And in the wonderful world of showbiz, most magicians spend most of their time on the show, and they spend no time on the biz. So they spend no time on the business side of things. They spend all time on the show side of things. They sit and practice magic all day, every single day, and they don't do anything to get more gigs. And that's why most magicians will make very little money and fail, because they're not trying to actually push the business side of their company forward. You know, there's a statistic in the UK. 80% of business owners will fail. 80% of businesses that are opened will fail within the first 5 years. And out of the 20% that succeed, only 20% of those businesses will reach their full potential, which means the majority of people that are in business for themselves, and this includes magicians and children's entertainers and performers, most people that decide to become a professional magician will either fail or just get by. And there's a reason, and let me tell you what the reason is. I know what the reason is. Let's just assume that there's this guy called Craig. And Craig works for a sales company. And his job is to sell gas and electric. And he's got a hobby as a magician. And he practices magic and he shows his mates. And he loves practicing magic. He does it all the time. And he dreams of being a professional magician. And all of his friends tell him he should be a professional magician. And he listens to his friends. And one day, he goes into work and he tells his boss to shove his job up his arse, because he's decided he's going to go for it. He's going to take the risk. He's going to be a full-time professional magician. So he quits his job, and then on Monday morning, he's there in his house, he sits down, he wakes up in the morning, opens up his laptop in the kitchen, and he's now a full-time professional magician. But the problem is, Craig's got no gigs. Craig's got nobody who wants to book him. So it's not like he's got an income coming in, because even though he's made this decision to become a professional magician, and even though Craig knows how to do tricks, and Craig's a pretty good magician, Craig's got no clients, he's got no customers, he's got nobody who wants to book him. So he's basically just sitting in his living room or his kitchen, staring at his laptop. So then Craig realizes he needs to become Craig the marketing guy, because he realizes he needs to start marketing him as a brand in order to start getting work, in order to make an income, because he needs to pay the bills. So he becomes Craig the marketing guy. Then he realizes he needs to think about branding. So he becomes Craig the branding guy. Then he realizes he needs to start, as part of this marketing thing, he needs to start doing social media. So then he becomes Craig the social media guy. Then he realizes he needs to start doing Facebook and Instagram and all this stuff. So he becomes Craig the Instagram guy. Then he realizes that he needs to kind of be on Google, and he needs a website. So he becomes Craig the website guy, because he hasn't got anybody who can design a website for him. So he has to do a website himself. And then he becomes Craig the Google guy, he becomes Craig the SEO guy, he becomes Craig the PPC guy, all in an effort to start getting people to inquire. And then what happens is the phone starts ringing and people start inquiring. So now he has to become Craig the sales guy, because he has to start dealing with these inquiries, and he has to deal with turning negatives. Then he has to become Craig the admin guy, because people start booking in. So he has to start dealing with that administration. He has to become Craig the email guy, because he's got to email people back and forth, and he's got to get PLI and stuff to be able to perform at gigs. And then he becomes he has to become Craig the accounting guy, because people start paying him and he needs to start keeping track of all this money. Then he becomes Craig the bookkeeper, because he realizes he needs to keep on top of this in order to put his accounts in. Then it becomes Craig the customer service guy, because he realizes that he needs to deal with customer service, and that's really, really important. And he needs to become Craig the operations guy, because he's got gigs coming in now, and he needs to make sure he's balancing his time between doing gigs and doing all this stuff in the office. And all of a sudden, and this is the reason why most people quit. Most people quit running their own business because they have a passion. They have a desire for something. They have a passion and a desire, in this case, to do magic. And very, very quickly after starting your own business, you realize very, very quickly that you spend all of your time doing all of the stuff that you don't like doing. You start doing all of the admin and the paperwork and the marketing and the sales and all this stuff that's not important. And you spend no time doing the thing that you quit your job to do anyway, because it's all about all the other stuff that you don't like doing. And people start quitting because they're just fed up. They find it easier to go back and do a normal job where they can just do what they're told, as opposed to the buck stopping with them, which is what it's like when you're running your own business and doing a whole bunch of tasks that you never really wanted to do and you're not very good at anyway. That's why most people quit running their own business. And it's the same with running a business as a magician. You will spend all of your time doing stuff that you don't want to do, that you don't like doing, in order to get a gig so you can go out and do the gig. And the gig becomes the little bit. It becomes a very small part of what you're doing. The big part of what you're doing is all the other stuff that I talked about. So the only way to make it as a professional magician, there's 3 ways to make it. The first way is to embrace this stuff and love it, start to enjoy the marketing, start to enjoy the sales, start to enjoy that side of things. Well, I really enjoy making my own website. I really enjoy the admin side of things. The second way to deal with it is to outsource and start getting people to do some of this stuff for you. So you have a bookkeeper who does the bookkeeping. You have a social media company that does your social media. You have a virtual PA that deals with a lot of the admin phone calls and things like that. So you start outsourcing this. Obviously, that comes with another problem, which is how you're going to pay for this stuff. Well, if you're setting up your own business, you should have working capital. You should have a certain amount of money that you've gone into this business with in order to make the business a success. And that's the other problem. A lot of people that decide to become a magician, they don't have any working capital. They don't have any funds to speak of to set this business up. They just go, right, I'm going to quit my job, I'm going to start working. And they just assume that the phone is going to ring, and that never happens. And that's the second thing, as I say. And the third thing is you jump on some sort of BGT or AGT thing, or some sort of thing that's going to catapult you to success. And then a management company will do all of this for you. Or you get on the books of an agency that will manage you. Those are the, which is few and far between and very rare these days. Those are the only ways that you're actually going to become successful as a magician. That's it. It's a very easy job to make money from once you've cracked it. Once you've cracked it and people start picking up the phone and ringing you, and people start picking up the phone and booking you, and people start picking up the phone and you don't have to do as much, it's very, very easy, because you can make a lot of money. And, you know, it kind of annoys me when people go, oh, I only got paid 500 quid for that gig. Well, it's 2 hours work and you got paid 500 quid. That's not bad. Ask anybody else who's on minimum wage. You know, you can make really good money as a magician, but you have to understand that you need to focus on the right thing. Focusing on the performing side of things, focusing on learning the magic tricks, that's not what you need to focus on. You need to focus on the business side of things. Like I say, in show business, it's that old expression, isn't it? What's the difference between a magician and a savings bond? Eventually, a savings bond will mature and make money. What's the difference between a magician and a pizza? A pizza can feed a family of 4. There's all of these jokes that you hear over and over again, but ultimately they come down to the fact that magicians don't make much money. Well, I can point out a ton of magicians that make a lot of money, but it's like anything. If you're going to run your own business, you need to put the time and effort in. You can't half-arse it. If you half-arse it, there's no point. You may as well just go and get yourself a job. But if you put the effort in and you have a business plan in place and you work hard, and you really kind of master the aspects of running a business that you need to master, then you can end up doing what you love and making really good money for it. Ultimately, it's up to you. You have 2 options. You can either carry on doing what you're doing, or you can take a risk. I've always been the person that wanted to look back and go, well, at least I gave it a shot. I'm more than happy to take risks. When you take a risk, look at what the worst case scenario is, look at what the best case scenario is, and if you can deal with that worst case scenario, then go for it. If you can't, then it's best not to take the risk. But I've always been the sort of person that takes a risk, because I'd rather look back and go, well, I gave it 100%, rather than, oh God, I should have done that 15 years ago, and now it's too late. Okay, so the next question is by CJ Ryan, and CJ Ryan says, what's the best ungimmicked, in-the-hands 3-card Monte you know, in your opinion? And any advice on presenting it in a softer way than, here's the queen, now she's gone, you're an idiot, now she's back, you're a jerk, show's over. And again, that's down to your character. What you've just described is probably the way that I would deal with that. Just because that's my character. My character is that of a very Greg Wilson style, flim-flam, con man style person. But I do agree that there are lots of other ways of presenting it. So let's go with that first. Ways of presenting the 3-card Monte. One way you can do it is with a story. You know, tell a story. So it's a story as opposed to you trying to cheat that person that you're performing to. And a perfect example is Emerson and West's Colour Monte. Which is, you know, I've got 3, you know, let me tell you a story about a time that I got conned out of my money. And I didn't think I'd get conned out of my money because I've been performing with playing cards for years. But I was walking down London Bridge and this guy stopped me and he said, hey, would you like to see a trick? You know, would you like to win some money? I was like, yeah, I'd like to win some money. He said, well, I've got 3 cards. I've got a card with a red diamond on it. I've got a card with a red diamond on it. I've got a card with a blue diamond on it. All you have to do is follow the card with the blue diamond. And you're telling this story about what happened to you, as opposed to, right, I've got 3 cards. All you have to do is follow the blue diamond. Do you think you can do that? Yes, okay, I'll put it at the bottom. Where is it? No, that's not the blue diamond. That's the red diamond. Look, let's try it again. Where is it? No, that's the blue diamond. Look, no. Do you see what I mean? If you tell a story and you're telling a story about what happened to you, then all of a sudden it takes the sting out of it completely, because you're just retelling this story. You're still doing exactly the same trick, but you're just telling the story. The other way of presenting it, which would achieve the same sort of results, is by doing it almost like as a public service announcement. So again, using Colour Monte as an example, it'd be something like this. So I've got 3 cards. I've got a card with a red diamond on it, a card with a red diamond on it, a card with a blue diamond on it. Now, let me tell you right now, if you're ever on the streets and you see a person bringing out 3 cards like this with diamonds on them, do not play. Walk away fast, because there is no way you can win this. Let me give you an example. If they show you that blue diamond and they put it on the bottom, and you're absolutely convinced that that blue diamond is on the bottom, if you bet for the bottom, you'll be wrong. You see, that's the red diamond, because they're going to cheat you and you don't even know it. And then they'll ask you if you want to play again, and they'll ask you where it is again, and maybe you'll say the top. And if you say the top, you'll be wrong. And you might say the middle, and if you say the middle, you'll be wrong. There is absolutely no way you can win this game. So whatever you do, run. Do not play, because honestly, it's not a game, it's a cheat. And so you kind of go down that path where you're actually kind of doing this pseudo education of the 3-card Monte, if that kind of makes sense. Now, in terms of the best ungimmicked in the hands 3-card Monte, there's 3 that I think are really good. The first one uses a gimmicked card, but it's ungimmicked and everything's examinable at the end, so I think I'm going to allow it to pass. So the first one is the Virginia City Shuffle by well, I can't remember who it's by actually. I first learned it on the Michael and Mar Easy to Master Card Magic set, and I've been doing it for years. It's that one where you've got, if you don't know it, it's incredible. In fact, what I'll do is I'll play a video of me performing it after this question finishes. I'll play a video of me performing it. But basically, it's the one where you've got a blank card, 3 blank cards and an ace. And it's done in a very storyteller type of way. And what I like about that particular routine is there's a kicker ending at the end that they just don't see coming. So that's a really good Monte routine. There's another one by Eric Stevens, which is on his At the Table lecture. So if you go check his At the Table lecture from Murphy's Magic, he goes through a 3-card Monte using regular cards out of a regular deck. That's really, really easy to do, and it doesn't use any gimmicks, and you're really far ahead with it. It's really, really nice. And he performs that and explains it. It's a really great At the Table lecture, actually, so it's well worth checking out that. Also in Andy Gladwin's new book, there's a Monte routine, which I actually performed in the review of it. So if you look at A Boy That Cried Magic on the Craig and Ryland review show, if you just type in A Boy That Cried Magic review, Craig Petty, Ryland Petty or something like that, it'll come up. And I performed that trick in the actual review of the book. That's a really nice one. And again, that just uses a regular deck. And then the other one that I can tell you about, and this is, I've never seen anyone else do this. I'm putting together at the moment on the channel a Hows and Whys with the regular WoW gimmick, because I love WoW. I've been using WoW for years. I've got like 12 of these. When I love something, I have loads of them. So I've got 3 WoWs here, because in a bit I'm going to be filming the Hows and Whys of the Face Up WoW. And there's a lot of stuff that I do with a WoW that a lot of other people don't do. And one thing that I actually do when I'm doing walk around is I will have 3 WoWs, and I will do a 3-card Monte with the WoWs, and I'll talk about how these little plastic sleeves are here so that I can't use sleight of hand, because if it's inside this sleeve, there's no way I can use sleight of hand. But now, if I can show, for example, 2 queens and a 7 of hearts, for example. And I can show, or 2 blank cards and a 7 of hearts, or whatever. I can show these cards, then in the action of taking these sleeves out, I can switch those cards for 3 blank cards, or whatever it is that I'm going to use. I put them in here. Now I've got the ability to have that 7 wherever I want it to be. I'm so far ahead, it's ridiculous. So it's really nice, because, and then at the end I can have it all change so that they're all the same card. And you can do that in the spectator's hands, because you can just literally have 3 cards. You can have your hands out, and you can put a WoW on each person's hand, and you can just show, look, this is where it is. Right, watch, where's the 7? No, it's over there, you need to watch it. So using 3 WoWs, not cheap, because you need 3 WoWs, but using 3 WoWs, it will allow you to do an in the hands 3-card Monte with no gimmicks whatsoever other than the wow gimmicks. And if you want to see a full performance of that, when you see the hows and whys of the wow gimmick, I'll be doing a full performance of that, so you can kind of, if you know wow, you'll be able to watch that and reverse engineer it. Anyway, let's have a look at the performance of Virginia City Shuffle. In my pocket, 4 playing cards. Now, I'm going to tell you a little bit of a story. Rye, Thea, have you ever been to Virginia City in America?
No.
Maybe one day you'll go. I went to Virginia City when I backpacked around America when I was younger, and I met a guy who wanted me to play something called a 4-card trick for money. And he didn't realise I was a magician, so I thought, yeah, I'm going to play you for money because there's no way you're going to be able to beat me. And he showed me the 4 cards. And he showed me that he had 3 blank cards and an ace of hearts. And he told me that the ace of hearts is the money card and not to watch the 3 blank cards. And I have to guess where the ace of hearts is. And if I get one of these blank cards, I lose. But if I get an ace of hearts, I win. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to be able to lose at this game. So I said, yeah, I'll play. And he said, I'll make it really easy for you. I'll put one of the blank cards down on the table. That just leaves us with 2 blank cards. And he said, watch very carefully. I'm going to take the ace of hearts, the one you've got to watch. I'm going to put it in between the 2 blank cards like this. And then he shuffled. And all he did is he just did 1, 2, 3. That's it. And he said to me, where's the ace of hearts? So I was watching really carefully, and I knew it was in the middle. So I said the middle, and he showed me the middle card, and it was blank. I'd lost, but then he did something I didn't understand. He showed me that all 3 of these cards were blank, and the ace was on the table. He tricked me. I was like, no way. I didn't know what was going to happen. Give me another chance. And he said, okay, I will give you another chance. He said, look, I'll do the same thing again. Let me put a blank card down on the table. And then in between the other 2 blank cards, I'm going to put the ace. And he told me to watch really carefully this time. He put the ace in between the 2 blank cards, and then he mixed them up. And he did a really fair mix like that. And he said, where's the ace of hearts? And I said, I was watching. It is most definitely in the middle. And he said, no, that's the blank card. He said, that's the blank card. He said, all of these cards are blank. The ace is in the middle. The ace is on the table. He fooled me again. I'm like, right, I'm going to watch really carefully this time. Give me one last chance. And he said, okay, one last chance. Watch really carefully. You know what's going to happen now. I'm going to put a blank card down on the table. In between the other 2 blank cards, I'm going to put an ace. All you have to do is tell me, once I've mixed up these cards, where is the ace? Well, I was going to go for the middle again. And then I kind of thought to myself, I've been fooled twice by this. I don't know how he's doing it, but it's definitely on the table. And I said, it's on the table. And he said, no, that's the blank card. And not only did I lose, but I learned that day never to play cards in Virginia City, because it's not what you think. Just when you think you're playing with 3 blank cards and an ace, you're actually playing with 3 aces. Okay, CJ Ryan is back with another question. He says, hey Craig, want to say, loving the new segments and performance videos, thank you. Loving a more philosophical, chilled approach. Appreciate it, man. Any advice to amateurs on how to get performance time? Yeah, just perform. I know it sounds ridiculous, I know it's a cliche, but just get out there and perform as much as you can. Go down the pub and perform for your mates, and you'll have people coming over and go, oh, do you do magic? Show me a trick. Just have a deck of cards with you. Go out everywhere and have a deck of cards with you. And if you're down the pub and you're just shuffling a deck of cards, very quickly somebody will come over to you and say, oh, you do card tricks, show me a trick. Just put yourself into a position where you can perform all of the time. You're going around family's house, you're going around a friend's house, take a trick, show them a trick, work on a new routine. Contact charities and say, hey, I'm an amateur magician. I'm trying to get better. I'd like an opportunity to perform for free. Do you have any events coming up that I can come and perform at? I'm not asking for anything in return, but I'd just like to be able to perform for your people. And then ask if you can take a video camera with you and then video it and watch it back so you can see what's good and what's not so good. The best way to get performance time is to just use every opportunity that you can to perform at work, at school, at home, at friends, family, down the pub, whatever it may be. Use every opportunity that you can to go out there and perform. Okay, so the next question is from Eamon Duhan, and Eamon says, hey Craig, I'm a big fan of the channel. The advice you give is so valuable, thank you. My question is, I have a mini chop cup It's a Leo Schmester's mini chop cup he bought out a year ago. I need some advice on what resources are available for developing a routine for a mini chop cup. I've got some novelty golf balls I can use as final loads, like a pool ball golf club and a baseball golf club, which fit perfectly, but there's an element of noise. It's a stainless steel mini chop cup that I have. I mean, I'm doing at some point soon, I'm doing an Alakazam Academy, and it's all on the chop cup, and I'm going to be discussing the mini chop cup. The bottom line is, the routines that work with big chop cups work with mini chop cups, right? So anything that you do with a big chop cup, you can do with a mini chop cup. My advice is to just Google lots of different performances. Have a look on YouTube of lots of different performances and look and see what you like from different performers' chop cup routines. Oh, I like that. I'm not too keen of that. I do like that. I don't like that. And then take all of the elements that you like and start coming up with your own routine for it. And yeah, golf balls would be absolutely amazing. There is a noise issue, but with a mini chop cup, you can load a ball into a cup without needing to do the standard load, so they're not going to hear it. So for example, if you have that final load there and you bring the cup over, you can just literally put the cup onto the ball and you can just have it like that, so it's there. Or you can have it in this hand and bring it here and drop it on there. So you can show the mini cup and you've loaded the ball underneath it without even needing to make any noise. And now you can pick the cup up, put your little finger underneath to keep that in place and put it down on the table. So, excuse me, the mini chop cup is a great prop to be able to do that with, more so than the big chop cup. Have a look at, and also the mini chop cup, I'll get back to that in a minute. Also, the mini chop cup is perfect to do in the hands. So a lot of the moves that you use with the mini chop cup, you can do into the spectator's hand. So it's the perfect cup to do in the hand chop cup routines, if that kind of makes sense. Look at Martin Sanderson's chop cup routine, and he does that in the hands, and you'll get an idea from that. And also have a look at Mark James's chop cup routine. Mark James brought out a DVD with RSVP, I think it was, and his chop cup routines on there, and it's absolutely amazing. So have a look at those two resources. Those are a couple of resources that will probably be able to help you. That's a good start. That's a good jumping off point. But yeah, my big piece of advice is have a look at everyone's routines and make notes and write down what you like about what other people are doing. And I'm not saying rip that person off, but use that as inspiration to come up with your own routine. I really like what that person did there. Like, for example, you'll never see me do that sequence where you do a false transfer, you show that you've done a false transfer, and then you load it under, and apparently that's how it works. That kind of pseudo explanation, I just don't like that. That doesn't fit my character. So I don't use that. Figure out what you like, have a look for inspiration, and then create your own routine. So there you go, guys. That is another Q&A in the bag. Thank you very much for watching. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for tuning in. Don't forget, the Q&A lives and dies by the questions that you ask. So please, 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 if you've got a question, no matter how stupid you think it is, leave it in the comments down below, and I promise I will get to that question next week right here on Magic TV. Don't forget, if you want to see more videos like this, like the video, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment down below, and I'm going to be back again today with another 3 videos. At 2 o'clock we're going to have a shorts, at 6 o'clock we're going to have a live, and at 9 o'clock we're going to be back with a review show special. So there's a lot going on here today on Magic TV. I hope you have a really good Sunday. Thank you very much for joining me here on the channel, and I'll see you again soon. Thanks very much for watching. My name's Craig from Magic